Barnstable This Morning. I'm Sarah Colvin, and joining me live in studio, I welcome our Assistant Town Manager, Mark Ells. Mark, good morning.
Good morning, Sarah. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm great, thanks.
So I wanted to start, of course, first with congratulations. I won't be calling you Assistant Town Manager for much longer. I will be calling you the Town Manager in about a month.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Great. We're looking forward to having you lead the town.
Thank you.
So I wanted to talk about a couple of things today. Mark, first, of course, I know you've been working very closely on this issue with the Town Council Homelessness Subcommittee. Really, and even before that committee was formed, the issue of homelessness certainly has been important. But one of the big things that's come out of that committee is the homeless coordinator position. And I wanted to talk a little bit about kind of where we are in terms of developing that job description and funding the position.
Well, we've actually come to a significant milestone relative to that, and last Thursday at the subcommittee meeting, we went through the request for grant. It's going to be a contracted position. We're going to go out and solicit proposals from individuals or organizations who can offer this sort of coordination service, and it'll be paid for through a grant that we've created. Part of the funding for the grant will come from the LaRusso Foundation, and part of the funding will come from our town. And we expect to go out with those grant proposals this Wednesday.
Oh, excellent.
That'll be the first. It'll be on our website. We believe we're going to put it in the newspaper. The proposal will be open for 2 weeks, and I don't have the exact deadline dates yet. And we'll be gauging the number and types of proposals. If we need to extend it, we can do that. We can do both. You know, we can advertise it. You know, we can go to direct solicitation on this. There's many methods. So we're going to try to reach out to as many contracted services that we can, get those proposals in, and get somebody in here, because we're becoming very active right now out there on Main Street and in other locations, and we want to make sure we have this in place so that we can coordinate with our service agencies that are providing outreach workers and really see some real improvements this coming summer season.
Great. So what kind of qualities are you looking for this homeless coordinator? What kind of experience should
we're
they
looking
have?
for somebody who has administrative experience, strong communication abilities, certainly within the fields that we're dealing with, the types of agencies that provide these services. And they're, nonprofits. Sometimes they are other groups who have come together to try to help people in need. And so really the and to have a behavioral science background so that they understand the underlying issues to why this is occurring, the different types of scenarios. There's very different, every individual is different obviously, and every situation is different, and the types of services they may need will vary. And to understand the process of seeing a person transition from being in that state of need to the next steps. Knowing all of that, bringing all of these resources together on our behalf, and reporting back to us as to how we're doing. And then bringing together, either through the coordinator or beyond, it'll be a direct report to the town manager's office in coordination with the town council subcommittee. And we're expecting the person obviously to be working daily, reporting weekly, monthly, quarterly, and then summary reports at the end of like a season perhaps. This is for 12 months, so it's through June 30th of 2017, and we're going to evaluate the success of this. And I think it's a model that can help us better coordinate, obviously. Title describes that, but it's my observation, and I don't come from this background, meaning I didn't study behavioral science, is that we have some resources out there, all well-intended, in many cases individually doing a very good job, but collectively we could even address the problem better. And we had talked about, well, maybe the, different groups, different levels of government may intervene, and I give a lot of credit to our town council and the subcommittee of the town council. They made the decision to step up, commit the resources, not wait another year, and get moving on this. So, and I've been the one that the town manager had organize from town's perspective all of these efforts.
Absolutely, and I think we see this coordinator as someone who will really be able to kind of take a look at all the services that are being provided and perhaps see where there might be some duplication and maybe even where the gaps are, to be able to say and maybe get everyone all working together to say, okay, we can all help fill in these gaps or maybe reduce services on this end because they're being duplicated.
Yes, and one of the challenges is the position doesn't have authority over many of these agencies, so we envision this being a true collaboration because we're all really focused on the same objective. We want to come together. We want to be able to do this in a manner that helps the individuals. And this is the peak time from now until the end of the summer, and we really need to have that resource in place and this coordination effort moving in a positive direction.
Great. Well, we'll have to welcome whomever it is that is our coordinator onto Barnstable this morning once they come on, and we'll get updates from them as well. That would be fantastic. So, Mark, switching gears a little bit, I understand the EPA took some significant action relative to PFOS, something that a contaminant that's typically found in the water supply. And I wanted to talk a little bit about what is PFOS and how does that affect us here in Barnstable?
Well, it's a chemical that on a perhaps we are familiar with it being in things like fire foam, but really it's in a lot of fire retardants, everything right down to your rugs and your furniture and your kids' pajamas, etc. So when you wash it or somehow it can enter into the environment, it becomes a concern in the environment. And what happened last week with the EPA is they actually came out with a public health concern. We've been well aware of this in the environment, but now they're looking at it on a little bit more significant level. And they're looking at systems water systems primarily, where this has been identified in the system. And if you followed what's been going on with the town water supply in Hyannis and the fire academy, we have this contaminant in our wells. Fortunately, we've been out in front of this issue by putting in place carbon filters to be able to deal with that in that particular instance. And we're trying to work with the county on resolving the costs and the technical and regulatory aspects of this. But we have this issue here in our system, so it's significant. It's one that is developing at the state level. Fortunately, we're well aware of the issue and have been very proactive in monitoring it and being able to respond when issues like this arise. But we expect that this week at DEP and then moving forward from here, this type of issue, and quite honestly others related, we keep hearing these terms, emerging contaminants. Yes. We've been watching this, but there haven't been any standards. There still aren't drinking water standards for this. There are just concerns being expressed locally, at the state, and federally for these various contaminants that are out there, these emerging contaminants. And the challenge is, these are used by all of us regularly in many cases. Right. And then there are far more larger uses of this, such as like I've described earlier, the fire foam, but there's all different sources for all different contaminants. It's something here in Barnstable, where we live on top of the aquifer from which we draw our water, that we need to be on top of. We have been, but as it changes, we need to keep a close eye on it, know how it impacts what we do every day. Our water is a huge, important resource for this community, and we need to keep a close eye on how this progresses.
Right, and I think with thinking about PFAS, I don't think typically you think about maybe fire retardant chemicals that are in your clothing, that when you put them in the washing machine, that wastewater can be entering the system. And I think we think about, the laundry soap that we use, or being cautious not to flush, unwanted prescriptions down the toilet. But something that's kind of embedded in clothing is something that you don't think about.
Absolutely, and with the fact that it's sold and there's no reason why you can't purchase something with this in it, and you wouldn't use it, a Teflon pan you wash, a child's pair of pajamas that have a flame retardant chemical in it, you would wash, and it goes down the drain. And it doesn't really matter whether you're tied to a treatment plant or through a septic system, because they're not regulated right now. So either system, this sort of chemical will pass through. And it's even gotten more complicated in that when I was coming through school 30 years ago, we were talking about parts per million, and then it got into being able to detect parts per billion. Now we're detecting parts per trillion.
Wow.
And we're also able to link potential ill effects at that level. So the technology to detect this has grown. The concern for what these contaminants might do in the environment, both to people and plants and fish and animals, that knowledge has grown. And therefore, this whole discussion of emerging contaminants and what we want to do about them, I think we got to get out in front on a preventative side of educating our public so that they know, especially when they buy products, whether it's our business public or our residents. They know what this is, and they know that there's a potential for concern.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Mark, I thank you so much, as always, for joining us here on Barnstable This Morning. And I know we'll be seeing more of you in the coming weeks, so I thank you so much, and talk with you soon.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks much. Mark Ells, of course, our Assistant Town Manager, joining us here on Barnstable This Morning. Interim Superintendent of Schools, Bill Butler, is next. We're going to send you out to look at a gorgeous morning in Osterville. We'll be back with more BTM.